Hey, this is Gary Mitchell, and this is more thoughts on manufacturing. And I've always kind of thought strategically about markets and customers and this sort of thing. Some of my training and product development in the old days, and even some marketing training. And and so I've been thinking about the kind of the confluence of the control and automation market that I've seen over the years. I've been a writer and then practitioner before that. And I'm in the media business where I got into the media about the year 2000 and what's kind of going on in the media that covers the that automation control, instrumentation, IoT market. And so a few random thoughts, and if anything kind of like tweaks a thought on your part, send an email to, you can comment on this on YouTube. You can comment on my Libsyn site, send an email to Gary at themanufacturingconnection.com. Or I don't know, hit me up on Twitter. Sometimes I look at it, although it's pretty useless anymore, or wherever else. So a few random thoughts on the market and some strategy and some strategic thinking in this area as I, enter into thinking about the future of what I'm working on anymore. This podcast, and as has been my pleasure for many years now, my longtime sponsor, Inductive Automation. And the podcast is brought to you with their support. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, mobile-first flexibility, and an intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. And now you can have all the power of Ignition with the convenience of the cloud. Ignition Cloud Edition makes it easy to add power to the cloud of the cloud to your Ignition architectures, extend and hybridize your enterprise operations, leverage elastic architecture that instantly scales up or down, and securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted cloud platforms, all on a pay-as-you-go plan. When I've talked to customers at Ignition's community conference in September out there outside of Sacramento, the customers say they like the product and they really like the pricing and they like the support. So, and I thank Inductive Automation for their support. And I've been kind of looking over things over quite a bit of time. First off, looking at media, at university, I wasn't satisfied to just study one thing. I did an awful lot of electronics work when I was in high school and learned a lot of electronics math and that kind of stuff. Went to college and discovered it would be years before I would get into a lab. And I just do my own thing. So I studied a bunch of stuff and I wound up taking all the writing courses that the university I was at offered over the course of a little over a year. And part of the writing courses at university have to do with selling your writing. And so we learned about the media market. And so even long before that, as a youth, I knew that the Thursday newspaper on my newspaper route was going to be thick and heavy, and it was going to be a real problem dragging all those newspapers around town because Thursday was advertising day. Monday, nobody advertised because nobody went shopping on Monday and Tuesday back in those days, maybe even still today, I don't know. But so I learned about advertising at like 13 years old, but or maybe before. And you take a look at it. When I joined Control Engineering magazine back in 1998, we probably had close to 100-page folios with more than 50% advertising. I think we were supposed to run at about 65% advertising pages to editorial pages. Was the formula back in that day. pick up any trade magazine now and see how many of them have 65% advertising. Not so. And the magazines aren't that. Even at Control Engineering, after about 3 years, when I saw the shifts in the market, there were just tons of software vendors and PC-based control, which was software, and computers and HMIs and touchscreens and all kinds of stuff going on. A lot of innovation. They were all advertising. Back in the day, Rockwell Automation would take out at least one page, if not two full pages a month, and on an annual plan. Other big companies did the same. Emerson dropped a lot of money into advertising. And by 2001, my last couple of years at Control Engineering, pretty much all the PC-based control software was pretty much disappearing. HMI, none of those, what used to be, you know, two 12-page packages, one would buy the other and it become one 12-page package, and then somebody would get bought, and then what used to be 36 pages was 12 pages, and they cut to 6 pages. And when 36 pages of ads go to 6 pages, the financial impact is big. And now look what's happening in the media market in the control, automation, instrumentation, manufacturing software space. They're all pretty thin. I got out of that business some time ago. I thought the future is internet, and I just wanted to take my blog and I wanted to do my own thing, which is what I do. I'm just out on my own as an independent writer, thinker, sometimes consultant, analyst kind of person. And a company called Endeavor went into business and started buying up, because somebody always thinks if I package all of these magazines together, so there will be some sort of a symbiotic relationship and we'll be able to make a profit. Thinking strategically, I'm not so sure about that, because everybody has different, each one of the little trade pubs has their own niche market, their own particular readers. The Control Engineering or Automation World readers are different from the, say, plant engineering or plant services readers. And the software readers, they're a different set of people. The people that want to reach those readers are a different set of advertisers. So I don't know. More power to Endeavor, who just bought my old publication, Automation World, and they bought the Putman books. So you got Control Design, and Automation World all packaged together. And it'll be interesting to see what Keith does to put that together and hopefully keep them alive and kicking. And so that's a tough market. And I think part of the tough market is there's just not that much happening anymore. I saw the software magazines because I used to take back through the 80s. See, when did I start? Well, let's just say the 80s and 90s. I got lots of IT magazines and papers and PC magazines and papers. And some of them covered IT, some were software, some covered, servers and other kinds of hardware. PC magazine could be thought of as where I could go for the latest news on all the PC products. And Byte magazine, I learned so much computer engineering out of Byte magazine. That was back when trade magazines actually had really good information, not like when I was writing, but well, that's another issue. But anyway, Byte was great. But then when Byte went digital and then it went downhill, PC magazine went digital. I don't know, it might still be around. I don't read it anymore. I've been for many years. And I started going to IT conferences with Dell and Hewlett Packard Enterprise, and I met some of those writers of the old IT magazines, and they're like me. They're independent, web-based people, kind of forging along, working, living on sponsorships and that sort of thing. So the IT market consolidated, and so control and automation. So I started looking at what's going on in specifically America, because that's where I live, although my undergraduate work in university was actually international politics. And so I have a big international background also. But say in America, we keep looking at what's happening in manufacturing. Automotive, as we move to EVs, and I just bought an Ioniq 6. Well, I love that car too. I've only had it 2 weeks, but it's really nice, an electric vehicle. And I don't stop at the gas station anymore. Well, a lot of people aren't stopping at the gas station anymore. What's that going to mean for all my friends in the oil and gas industry? Emerson, Yokogawa, Honeywell, ABB, well, it's Schneider now, or the old Foxborough. Those process automation, a lot of them, the big part of their revenue came out of oil and gas, and still does in many respects. And that's not a future thing. It's going to hang on. There's going to be oil and gas. We're going to need lubricating oils for a long time, but that market is slowly changing. And so, how much is happening there? Part of my electric vehicle thing is putting solar panels on my roof, and part of that reason is to so ComEd doesn't have to invest in any more big generating plants. So we have GE and other people who are the automation control and IoT people for electric power generation, and yet we don't want to build too many more new plants. Bill Gates just put a thing out. So if you go to Gates Notes, his latest blog post was on talking about being in Wyoming and switching from coal to nuclear. We have new nuclear plants coming up. And although my conservationist friends probably would unfriend me, but nuclear is a heck of a way to go, especially as we get better at how to use the materials and store them and so on. Uh, so that's part of process, part of some of the things impacting automotive is different, oil and gas is different. Um, and even food and beverage, we're still going to eat. It's kind of like when I was at university, and I went to University of Cincinnati for a while, and that had a thriving aerospace engineering department. And in the late '60s, a lot of people wanted to go into aerospace engineering. And NASA was starting. There was stuff going on, and the advisor, the resident advisor guy on our dorm, was a civil engineering guy, and he says, "Hey, civil engineering, that's the future. People are always going to poop, so they're going to need wastewater treatment plants." And so, there's that kind of stuff going on, and there's research, but food and beverage, people are still going to eat, but there's a lot of innovation that we need to do yet in sustainable packaging. We can't keep throwing these plastic water bottles into the landfill, going into the oceans and choking our fish. Something's got to happen in there, and it's going to take engineers to do that. What's that going to mean to our industry there as well? So I look at all these different things and where things are going, and the third thread, and really I just have questions more than observations and questions, and I observe all this stuff going on, and I observe this kind of stuff. The other thing has to do, I live in America, and so I'm interested in American manufacturing. I work in American manufacturing, although I have, if you look at my Facebook and all the different languages, but still. So in America, our genius bean counters started sending manufacturing overseas, chasing cheaper labor. And one of the mistakes that bean counters make, and other kind of marketing people that don't know the nitty gritty of engineering and manufacturing, is that an awful lot of innovation comes from putting a plant together and running it. And kind of like in a talk I gave, and there's a link on my website to go to this place where I just gave a webinar, and I was talking about a lot of the early manufacturing and industrial age innovation came not from, actually it didn't even come from engineers and academics. It came from people working on things, solving a problem. Oh, there's such a thing as a steam engine. I could do this. Oh, if I took the steam engine and I did this and this and this, I could do this. And I had friends growing up, or fathers of friends when I was growing up also, who were tinkerers in that same mold. I'm solving a problem. I don't have an engineering degree, but I can go out and I can solve this problem. I mean, I can make things better. I can make manufacturing better. And without the manufacturing, without people working there, and where's the innovation coming from? Innovation went overseas. An awful lot of engineers come along. And what are your jobs these days? When I was calling on a Ford plant, we had degreed engineers much smarter than I, but what they were mostly doing was like maintenance leads for all intents and purposes. Occasionally they would get a project where they could bring in a new machine, but mostly it was on call with maintenance guys when they call and say, "Hey, I can't fix this. I need an engineer out here." And I've seen the same thing in process industries where the tech goes out and it's like, "Hey, I need an engineer out here to help solve this." And so the engineers are I mean, they're solving problems. That's what you guys are taught in college, but how much of it is just day in, day out, day in, day out, fixing all these little things that pop up instead of tinkering around and finding a better way and innovating and building new things. And to bring this whole thing into a full circle, something I've talked to people about and observed, and I asked more questions. I'm still asking questions, and so write to me if you have observations on this also. But I've done a lot of work with standards organizations, and I wrote some stuff, did some promoting for OPC Foundation. I've talked to Arlen and the people at MQTT, which is another, what's becoming a standard and so on. And other standards, networking standards, Profibus, DeviceNet, and so on, and all this kind of stuff. I did quite some work with an organization called Mimosa, and I did a lot of work for quite a few years with a software organization called MESA, MES Association. And the thing that seemed to stand out the most is a lot of the innovation and all these standards and all these things and putting thought into all this is overseas. A friend of mine used to tell me that who did training, he said that if I put together a class in the United States, I'll have trouble filling it and probably will have to cancel it. If I put together a class and advertise it in Europe, whichever country, just all over Europe, the class will fill. If I put a class on in Korea, China, Japan, Southeast Asia, they'll fill that and want me to add 2 more classes. There is so much interest. And I've just been following up on those observations, and I'm hearing it's still the same thing. There's not a lot of interest in America among American engineers for working and learning and using all these standards. And on the other hand, Europe is still leading the way on a lot of these things, and the interest in Asia is just still continues to be outstanding. And so my challenge to American engineers is, hey, if we're, they're starting to bring manufacturing back. Supposedly, the reshoring initiative is talking about its successes and other successes of bringing manufacturing. My belief is that manufacturing should be in every country. I thought going to China was good simply to serve the Chinese market, not to serve the American market from China. That's goofy. Put product on containers on ships and coming back. That's inefficient as all heck. Efficiency is getting a smaller plant closer to the customer, in my humble opinion. And you can argue with me if you wish, but that's where I think it's going. And so my challenge is, hey, let's get some American initiative going on. I grew up as a kid listening to my grandfather talking about all the innovation that he was involved with in the 30s, actually the 20s and the 30s, and the work he did leading a company changeover from making domestic products to machine gun parts for the World War II effort. And then converting it back from machine gun bolts to refrigerators, which is what they made before. That kind of stuff. He taught me a lot about that innovation. So if we're bringing manufacturing back, hey, guys and girls and everybody out there, let's get some thoughts going on how we can make all this better. Make maybe smaller, more efficient plants closer to the customer and that sort of stuff, and do things in a more cost-effective manner. I know that was my career a long time ago, and I challenge you to pick it up again. Anyway, random thoughts on the market and where things are going, where I think they really should be going in a perfect world. And once again, I really thank my support from Inductive Automation. Discover a whole new perspective on industrial automation with Ignition, packed with innovative features for the modern control system, like unlimited licensing, high-powered tags, and a mobile-first mobile first flexibility, and an intuitive built-in design environment. Ignition supports enterprises of any size or industry. See all Ignition has to offer at inductiveautomation.com. And now you can have all the power of Ignition with the convenience of the cloud. Ignition Cloud Edition is now out, and it makes it easy to add power of the cloud to your Ignition architecture. Extend and hybridize your enterprise operations, leverage elastic architecture that instantly scales up or down, and securely host and deploy solutions on the world's most trusted cloud platforms, all pay-as-you-go plan. Thank you to Inductive. Thank you all to all of you for listening. Of course, you can subscribe. I use Overcast, or you can go to wherever you use to get podcasts, and also go to you can find me on YouTube. Also, I record this on Zoom and record the video. So anyway, have a good day. Be kind to your neighbor. Be kind to yourself. Thanks, and go out and innovate.